Hello there, and welcome to the Star Wars Collective, where we discuss, dissect, and theorize all things from the galaxy far, far away. This channel was really created out of pure love for all things Star Wars, and I can't wait to dive into discussion with the Star Wars community. I was really waiting for the right time to start my channel, but there really isn't a better time to be a Star Wars fan than right now. Coming off the epic Season 2 finale with The Mandalorian, and with all of the upcoming project titles released at the Disney's Investor Weekend, the Star Wars community hasn't been this alive in a very long time. It's great to see, and it really is a great day to be a Star Wars fan. Today we will be discussing and working our way through the epic, jam-packed Season 2 finale of The Mandalorian titled The Rescue. The anticipation behind this episode release was massive, similar to a major movie theater release in my opinion, and it really did not disappoint. Fasten your seatbelt, Star Wars Collective, and let's dive into this episode. This episode was directed by Season 2, Episode 2, and Ant-Man director Peyton Reed. And it was produced by the binary sons of Star Wars, Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, our boys. The episode opens with a bang, when we are all thrown into the middle of a dogfight between Slave One and a Lambda-class shuttle. These Imperial shuttles should look very familiar. We have seen high-ranking members of the Empire, such as Palpatine and Vader, travel in these during the original trilogy. We quickly learn that clone engineer Dr. Pershing is aboard the shuttle. Boba Fett disables the shuttle with an ion cannon. These cannons have been seen throughout Star Wars, but most notably in The Empire Strikes Back. The crew boards the Imperial shuttle. During the hostage situation that follows, we learn a couple of interesting things. Dr. Pershing is confirmed to be a clone engineer, which we basically already knew from the arm patch that he has, that we saw during Season 1, and that he is a high-level New Republic target. The most interesting aspect of this change, however, is between Cara Dune and the seasoned Imperial pilot. The pilot is quick to note her connection to Alderaan, which is seen by the tear tattoo on her left cheek. He viciously and really slyly remarks about how he saw her planet destroyed and was a part of the Death Star. Cara smugly replied to him, "Which one?" We then get to see a different Imperial perspective that has been a really common theme throughout the season, and it's really cool to see. He explains how the galaxy cheered while millions were killed on both Death Stars. This change in perspective is fascinating and something I really hope Star Wars explores more. It really makes you think about from a certain point of view argument, and puts a darker twist on the Rebels' seemingly heroic work throughout the original trilogy. Carl settles this by blasting the pilot in the face. We then get the main title and the episode name, which is The Rescue. While we see these things on screen, this is really when I noticed the composer, Ludwig Göransson, was absolutely not messing around this episode. The music throughout this finale really made it so special and captivating. He always does a great job, don't get me wrong, I love his work, but for some reason in this episode, the score really stood out in particular. We then see the Slave One fly towards a planet covered with numerous factories bearing the Republic symbol. This planet is currently unconfirmed, but it's really interesting that the Republic logo remains untouched throughout the rise and fall of the Empire. As they land, we see Bo-Katan's ship, this style commonly called Gauntlets, and we have seen this ship style throughout the Clone Wars animated show, and we see Darth Maul fly a similar ship in Star Wars Rebels. Mando and Boba Fett enter the cantina and find Bo-Katan and Sasha Banks' character, Casca Reeves. Bo-Katan is resistant and cold initially to Mando and Boba, not approving of the bounty hunter lifestyle. She thinks they will never be able to find Moff Gideon, and then calls out Boba Fett for not being a real Mandalorian. Boba responds by saying, "Never said I was," which I thought was pretty interesting because in Episode 6 he was pretty clear about showing Mando the chain code in his armor, proving that he actually was a Mandalorian. I think this line probably stems from Boba's lack of commitment to any side or party. Casca chimes in with a chirp, and Boba has a comment back that, if I have to be honest, I have absolutely no idea what it means. Bear with me here, but he says, "Well, if that isn't the Quokta calling the Stifling slimy." This is a new one. I'm sure it's a great burn, but let me know in the comments if you have any idea what that means at all. Boba becomes much more interested after she finds out they have Gideon's coordinates, but Boba comes in the way, again calling Mandalore a planet of glass. Bo piles on Boba Fett while he says his armor belonged to his father by saying, "Don't you mean donor?" After calling her princess, which is a callback to her royal bloodline, and Bo going right back at him for being another clone, a fight breaks out between Boba Fett and Casca Reeves. Here we see all the Mandalorian tricks being used: the cable rope, jetpack acrobatics mid-fight, and of course, ending with the trusty wrist flamethrowers. Bo settles this feud by saying they will help, but in exchange they will need Gideon's light cruiser to help retake Mandalore, Din's future consideration to helping the Mandalorian cause, and the promise that she gets to kill Moff Gideon in order to regain the Darksaber. Mando simply does not care about any of this. He just wants his kid back. You can really see the focus and drive to get Grogu back here. The similar drive we saw in his badass message to Gideon at the end of Episode 7. We then cut to the inside of the Slave One, with the new crew and Dr. Pershing aboard. Here we find out the details of their plan to take the ship and rescue the child. It would be a fairly simple and easy operation for people of this skill. However, Dr. Pershing informs them of the garrison of Phase 3 Dark Troopers aboard. These are droids, and their abilities really have been building suspense all season up to this point. Something interesting to note here is that Dr. Pershing is actually really helping them, showing them where the child is being kept, warning them of future dangers. He really is not a bad person, just a cloner hired, or more likely forced into the job. Their plan is simple but clever. The Lambda shuttle will place a distress call to Gideon's cruiser while being fake chased by Boba and the Slave One. The shuttle will then make an emergency landing, blocking the TIE fighter launching zone in order for Boba to escape freely. Casca, Bo, Fennec, and Cara Dune will march through the cruiser towards the bridge as an initial distraction. Mando will then operate alone, sneaking throughout the ship, neutralizing the Dark Trooper charging bay, and then rescuing Baby Yoda at the brig. Here's where the action really picks up. The plan goes surprisingly well. However, instead of letting them emergency land initially, Gideon deploys TIE fighters. Perhaps he recognizes Slave One, or Bo-Katan's voice over the comms. While the TIEs are launching, we get a really cool perspective of the almost slingshot aspect of this launch tube on the light cruiser. Despite orders, they emergency land, blocking any more fighters. This irregularity surely has Gideon's attention now, as the Slave One makes quick work of the fighters and then disappears into hyperspace, or jump space as he previously calls it in the episode. The badass female strike team immediately gets to work, moving through the ship and taking down Imperials with ease. Gideon wastes no time and orders the activation of the Dark Troopers, after seeing the security footage. We then get some intense, dubstep-like music from Ludwig as we see the montage of the Dark Troopers getting ready. They make a point in this episode to really build up tension and suspense with these troopers. We then see Mando begin his stealth run, exiting the ship to subtle notes of the now iconic Mandalorian theme. We then rejoin the strike team, moving through the ship and doing some great and clever jetpack peel-off maneuvers, catching stormtroopers off guard. These troopers really don't stand a chance at this point. Then after some more stealthy Din moments, we have a great sequence in the cargo hold, highlighting how badass Fennec really is. She combines hand-to-hand combat, acrobatics, and blaster fire so well. Her experience really shows throughout these moments. My favorite two moments really, throughout the sequence are the cheeky shot through the hole in the cargo and the almost Anakin Season 7 of the Clone Wars-esque blaster dodge. Kara's gun also gets jammed, which I actually really liked because I thought it added a lot of tension to the moment, and we never really see things of that nature in Star Wars. The strike team safely makes it on the elevator to the bridge. Things seem to be going along very smoothly, however, the Dark Troopers are now ready. I love Mando's reaction here as he sees the door opening. He realizes what this means and how bad it will be if he doesn't stop them. He rushes to seal the doors, but one Dark Trooper catches the closing doors and gets through. This Dark Trooper rocks Mando back, is unaffected by blaster fire, picks Mando up, and starts absolutely pounding Mando's helmet while the other troopers are trying to break through the door. Mando literally goes into the wall. A real immovable object meets an unstoppable force moment here. For those wondering about the logistics of Mando not absolutely breaking his face, or not having just severe brain damage at the very least, is that his helmet is pressurized. You can tell by the noise it makes when he takes it off. The head and the helmet move as one, and the helmet just happens to be made of Beskar, which is the strongest metal there is in that galaxy. So as the head and the helmet move as one, he's driven back into the wall. Mando tries almost everything he's got to take this trooper down. Blaster fire didn't work. Fire doesn't work. Even the whistling birds don't totally disable the Dark Trooper. But the birds do stagger it briefly, giving Din time to take out his Beskar spear and stab it through the neck of the trooper. After he finishes that, though, the other troopers are nearly breaking through the glass. But just in time, Mando rushes to the controls of the bay, opens the door, and sends the Dark Troopers into space. However, if you think back to episode 6, you know this isn't the last we will see of them because they can, in fact, last in space and fly. Meanwhile, while all this is going on, the strike team successfully takes the bridge. But no Moff Gideon. Bo-Katan is not happy, but honestly, what does she expect here? Do you really think he was going to sit there and wait for her? She asks, "Where's Gideon?" And then we get an immediate cut to Mando absolutely not messing around with 2 guards at the brig. He stabs one through the stomach and then chokes one, lifting him off the ground and then snapping his neck. The man was not messing around. He was on a mission. He enters the cell to find Gideon with the Darksaber inches over the handcuffed Grogu. Mando drops his blaster and gets a brief history lesson about the Darksaber from Gideon. He explains Bo-Katan's motivation to get the saber, but Mando frankly doesn't care. He just wants the kid. Gideon says he can take him because he has his blood. He just wanted to study Grogu's blood because of how gifted and strong with the Force he is. Gideon says, "It has been blessed with rare properties that have the potential to bring order back to the galaxy." There are a few things this can mean, but we're pretty confident this is a clear reference to cloning. Palpatine and Snoke. So Grogu's blood helped make Snoke and clone Palpatine? It's very possible at this point, but there's no way to be 100% sure. Moving on, Gideon says he can take him, the child that is, and then they can go their separate ways. But in true Imperial fashion, he double-crosses him and surprises him. He knows this is the option for the best possible outcome. He clearly can't beat Din straight up. He needs the element of surprise to have a chance. Even with this, if he loses, there is still a good chance that Din would keep him alive, and that would make things very interesting with Bo-Katan, the Darksaber, and the returning Dark Troopers. Gideon knows all of this. He's very smart, very tactile. And it turns out he was right. The fight between these two was powerful and epic. It began with Mando blocking powerful blows with his wrist cuffs, similar to episode 5 with Ahsoka. After the spear is drawn, it is really a great, strong duel. When the Darksaber is pressed against the spear for an extended period of time, we see the metal heat up and begin to bend slightly. We didn't see this with Ahsoka's lightsaber in episode 5, so it could perhaps be a rare property of the Darksaber, or we just didn't see extended pressure like this during that duel. In this duel, we have a moment that is so cool and so underappreciated. If you don't see it correctly, you may have missed it. The kick is what I call it. Mando so slyly kicks the spear over his back. This move was awesome, deserves more credit, I think. But shortly after the kick, he disarms Gideon, gives him a shot to the face, but still keeps him alive. And then Gideon says the line that we were all thinking at this point. Well, this should be interesting. Din walks in with Grogu in hand and Gideon at Darksaber point, much to Bo-Katan's anger and surprise. She says, "What happened?" knowing what this means if Din beat him in combat. I absolutely love Gideon in general, and I love him so much in this scene. He plays the situation perfectly by pinning Bo against Mando. Din doesn't quite get it, and many audience members don't really get it either. Why can't he just give her the saber like Sabine did in Rebels, or simply just yield in combat? I have a few theories on this that I will describe in detail for another video. But at this point, we know Bo simply can't take it this way. It is not legitimate. Some real tension begins to build here with Gideon stirring the pot. Bo knows what this means, and Din is starting to realize she's really about to fight me for this thing I don't even want. Before that situation can play out, we are notified of all the Dark Troopers blasting dubstep, breaching the ray shields, and boarding the ship. The Dark Troopers split into 2 sections. One squad marching on the bridge, and another fanned out across the rest of the ship, primarily in the hallways and cargo hold. They seal the blast doors as the Dark Troopers arrive and start beating down the door. This is really an intense and scary moment for all involved. Adding to the tension, Gideon smiles smugly and tells them that after a valiant fight, the only people left living in this room will be him and the child. As tension is reaching its peak and as the door is about to break, we hear a warning signal from the ship. An incoming X-Wing fighter. Cara Dune sarcastically states, "One X-Wing? Great, we're saved." But how right she actually was. As fans, we had an idea of what this could mean when we saw it on screen. I immediately stood up and was yelling at close to 3 a.m. We see this subtle moment here with Baby Yoda after the X-Wing pulls into the hangar. His ear perks up slightly, and we know he feels the presence that has just arrived. The Dark Troopers, most likely hearing the warning or being connected with the ship, stop pounding on the door. And then we suddenly cut to a bit of a worried Moff Gideon, and we begin to hear an amazing score by Ludwig suddenly come into play as the troopers shift all of their focus to the incoming threat. Gideon's worried expression begins to shift to fear as we see the first look of a hooded figure walking quickly through the hallway on the monitors. The figure starts taking out Dark Troopers with ease, even deflecting blaster fire behind the back in a very similar way to the way Anakin or Darth Vader did in Revenge of the Sith. The music swells as Bo-Katan exclaims, "A Jedi?" And we see a look of pure shock and fear rests on Gideon's face. It's so good, it's brilliant. And there it is. This is when it is 100% confirmed. We see the black robes, the green lightsaber, the gloved hand absolutely cutting through Dark Troopers with a brilliant combination of attacks, blocks, and force maneuvers, while all of the characters in the bridge simply look on in awe of what's taking place. Gideon knows there's no way out now. He takes a nearby blaster, shoots Bo-Katan multiple times, knocking her to the ground. However, she would be okay. And then taking aim at Grogu, firing, but Din diving in front to save the child's life yet again. Taking a moment to realize all of his options have been exhausted, a frantic, panicked Gideon turns the gun on himself. But before committing suicide, Cara Dune knocks the gun out of his hand and knocks him unconscious. Luke continues to slice through Dark Troopers as Mando and Grogu look on from the screen, Grogu even reaching out and touching the screen. Luke takes the elevator to the bridge, and we know it is about to happen. Is any trickery or clever thinking required on behalf of Luke? No. Luke is so powerful and one with the Force at this point that a small hallway full of around 10 Dark Troopers is not even close to being a challenge for him. There is a great visual of this scene side by side with the Vader hallway scene from Rogue One, and we really see some parallels evident here. Both Skywalkers being real masters of their respective Force abilities in those sequences. The music that plays during Luke's hallway scene is so calm, triumphant, and reassuring. He was in total control of this whole situation, using impressive Force abilities, lightsaber techniques, and even Force Crush, absolutely destroying the final Death Trooper's robotic frame. Grogu looks at Mando as Luke arrives at the door. Din knows what time this is, and he opens the door for Luke Skywalker to enter, his silhouette illuminated by smoke and the green hue of his blade. He puts away his lightsaber, takes off his hood for the first time to the Binary Sunsets theme, and we see a de-aged Mark Hamill. He initially looks great. There is some trouble, obviously, as the look of him when he's speaking, but this is super hard to replicate, and I think overall the emotion and meaning of this moment overshadows the small technical matters with the lip and face movement. He extends his hand to Grogu, telling him to come along. Mando says he doesn't want to go with you, but Luke knows he's waiting for permission. Here comes an incredibly emotional moment. Din tells the child to not be afraid. Grogu reaches out at the Mandalorian helmet, and Din actually removes it, allowing both of them to truly see each other for the first time with their own eyes. This moment is incredibly powerful and makes me really hope the duo will be reunited again in the future. It seems like Grogu is having a hard time letting go until none other than R2-D2 arrives, giving off cheers of joy. Perhaps he recognizes him from the Jedi Temple, or they recognize each other. Off walk Luke, R2, and Grogu. Incredibly powerful, moving, and emotional. This really, truly took me days to digest just the beauty of this ending. However, it's not exactly over yet. We had a great Marvel-style post-credit scene with Fennec and Boba taking Jabba's palace by killing Bib Fortuna and claiming the head role in the crime underworld. We then get the announcement of the Book of Boba Fett coming December 2021, which I'm very excited for. It has been loosely confirmed from a couple different sources that the Book of Boba and Mando Season 3 will be two separate shows. There is some initial concern and confusion about Boba replacing Din and the Book of Boba Fett being the third season, or something of that nature, but that does not seem to be the case. What an amazing finale that was. It was everything I could have ever wanted. I never thought they would put the Luke Skywalker in this show. It was moving, powerful, and really just such a great ending to an amazing season. All we can really say is thank you, Lucasfilm. Thank you, Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, for giving us this amazing series. That will do it for my run-through of the Mandalorian Season 2 finale. I really hope you enjoyed watching, and if you did, feel free to subscribe and throw the video a like. It really means a lot to me. Can't wait to continue making videos and expanding the Star Wars collective. Thank you for watching. Till next time, and may the Force be with you. Thanks.